The first Ratchet & Clank game was released almost exactly 1 year ago. The game basically just kind of reinvented the platformer in a lot of ways by taking the focus away from like your ability to jump from one ledge to another, and instead putting the focus on weapons and you know, just cool little missions. It eliminated a lot of the backtracking that had kind of become commonly associated with the genre, and you didn't have to go out of your way to collect like a billion little things. For all these reasons, plus a lot of technical ones, the game was an overwhelming success. It was just a fantastic game start to finish. Now here we are, a little over a year later, and Insomniac and Sony have teamed up yet again to release Ratchet & Clank Going Commando, which is the sequel to last year's game. Going Commando takes place in an entirely different galaxy than the first game. Going Commando picks up the story several months after the conclusion of the first game. The pair are now heroes, and they're being interviewed for kind of this behind-the-music-like show about heroes. Of course, someone sees this show who's in need of a hero, snaps up our duo, and whisks them away to another galaxy. Here's where they meet Mr. Fidgewidget, who is the head of Megacorp. Basically, the story is that an experimental creature, this little kind of furry dude, has been kidnapped away from their facilities, and they want Ratchet to get it back. From there, of course, the creatures turn out to be more than they seem originally. They, you know, of course, turn out to be these horrible, evil things that the company's trying to market as a pet. So it spirals out from there and turns into your basic kind of save the world from peril sort of thing. Since the game takes place in a different galaxy, you'll encounter a lot of different weapons and a whole host of new worlds to tromp around in. But the gameplay is basically the same. Ratchet's armed with his wrench, you still have objectives to complete, you still don't have to do backtracking, and basically you'll just make your way through the levels with your wrench and your host of new weapons and complete these objectives as you encounter them. The main difference in the game is that a whole lot of upgrades have been added to the game. So each one of these new weapons you pick up, as you use it, it'll gain experience. And when you reach a certain threshold of experience points, it'll upgrade into a new weapon that's more powerful. All the new weapons can pretty much be upgraded in this way with a couple of exceptions, and you also run into a few weapons from the first game that can't be upgraded at all. In addition to that, Ratchet actually collects experience points as well, though it isn't really ever shown on the screen other than a meter. When this meter fills up, basically you'll earn one more little pip on your life bar. This kind of makes you more powerful as the game goes on, so your weapons are becoming more powerful. You'll encounter wrench upgrades and armor upgrades that make you take less damage and do more damage. And you know, basically the difficulty of the game ramps up alongside this. But it does this in a pretty clever way. It's not just that the enemies take more hits to kill. You actually have to vary up your tactics a lot as you proceed because the enemies just get more and more challenging. The crazy crab-looking creatures that'll attack you, you know, they're tougher than the early monsters, both in hit points and in their tactics. So you really have to kind of be on your toes as you move forward to stick with it. The game also has some kind of mini-game sort of portions to it. You'll encounter hoverbike racing and some space combat scenes. And additionally, you'll also uncover a ship upgrade area, and here you can go buy more weapons or better shields and things of that nature for your ship that'll make the space combat sequences a lot easier to deal with. For the most part, these mini-games are optional, but each one does have a challenge that is required. Basically, you know, you're awarded a prize for completing the race in first or taking out all these ships, and that's usually an item that's required to continue the story. But from there, you can go back to these arenas and other areas and kind of compete just to earn money, which is a nice touch. Graphically, Ratchet & Clank Going Commando looks a lot like last year's game. It's only been a year, so there hasn't really been a whole lot of adjustments made. There are new spherical worlds that you run into from time to time, and here you actually kind of will take on the role of a giant Clank. And you'll have to kind of punch your way through buildings and take out a big UFO and take out this other big robot. And that's pretty cool. But by and large, the game looks roughly the same. You'll encounter a host of new weapon effects to go with the new weapons. But by and large, yeah, the frame rate looks good. It's a great looking game, though probably not as impressive as it looked last year. Though not as impressive as it looked last year, because that was before games like Prince of Persia and Jak 2 and other games really kind of raised the bar graphically for the PlayStation 2. Sound-wise, the game maintains the same basic feel as the first game as well. It has great voice acting, and the script that the actors are given to work with is full of humor that actually works quite well. In addition to that, it has kind of the same upbeat, up-tempo music that you'll find in the first game. Some of the tracks are really reminiscent of those songs from the first game. So really, the game really kind of maintains a cohesive atmosphere with the first game. And at times it almost feels like more of a mission pack with some cool upgrades and new levels than a full-on new game. But in the end, even though the game doesn't feel quite as new as it probably could have, what is there, the levels, the weapons, all of these things really do add up to make a great game. It's also a lot longer than you'd expect a platform game to be. You can expect it to kind of clock in around the 15 to 20 hour mark, depending on how quick you can get through some of the segments. By and large, it is a great game, and if you're interested in platformers, I wholly recommend you check it out.